I think the program that's next for us to just take a fair assessment of is the Michigan Wolverines. Back-to-back Big Ten champion Wolverines, should I say. And they are in an interesting position because a lot of the storylines around Ann Arbor right now have nothing to do with what they did on the field. Michigan, for the second year in a row, like I said, won the Big Ten, made the college football playoff, and came up short against TCU. But when you look to 2023, I don't believe that the roster is going to be something that holds them back. They've got some key pieces that are leaving. Don't get it twisted. Mike Morris, heck of a player. A guy in the trenches. I mean, a great leader coming off the edge. He's going to be very, very much missed. Mozzie Smith will also be missed. Ronnie Bell, a captain. He's going to be missed. But you bring back a lot of other key talent. J.J. McCarthy, your quarterback, said run that back. Obviously, he's coming back. I mean, couldn't leave. Blake Corum, this was huge that he decided to come back. I mean, J.J. McCarthy's got to be in school a little bit longer. Blake Corum had options. Decided he wants to come back to Michigan for another year. The Mike Sanders still, he's a dog. After his first year of playing defense, says, I want to come back another year and do this again. So they got some key pieces leaving, but some key pieces coming back, some key leadership coming back. So that's, I think, very much so going to be something to watch, how they step up with the loss of some of these other pieces. But here's the reality. Michigan never had the most talented roster. Like they didn't beat Ohio State because they had more 5-stars than them. Michigan is a program that gets good talent, develops to the nth degree, and plays well as a program, plays well as an organization, as a unit. They put together 22 as good as anybody in the country. They put together phenomenal units, and that's what allows them to be successful. They play well as a team. Football is the greatest team game in the world, and Michigan is the epitome of how you get the most out of your guys. Okay, so this is not a segment to talk down on the talent they have. I'm telling you, they've never been a team that wins the talent battle. But 4 quarters come and go, and more often than not, Michigan has won the battle on the scoreboard. So if you're not subscribed, we'd love to have you. Had a ton of y'all Michigan fans join us this past season. We got to be at Ohio State, Michigan, and a lot of y'all were there. It was unbelievable, a scene like I had never seen before. Make sure you're locked in because we're going to do more content like that in the near future. So if you're not yet subscribed, we'd love to have you at the party. Also, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at JD Pickell. Great medium for us to interact there, and we appreciate you in advance for doing so. Looking forward to hearing from you. So the storyline that has been continuing to roll is the Jim Harbaugh to the NFL story. We don't know if it's going to happen. We don't know if it's going to be a thing that dropped while we're live on air, but the reality is there has been reports from people that know things that he has talked to the Broncos, the Panthers have been in contact, the Colts get floated around there. I don't know how much smoke there is to that, but the reality is the NFL is interested in Jim Harbaugh. And history would tell us and reporters would tell us that if Jim Harbaugh is offered a job in the NFL, rumor has it he would take it. I don't know if that's true. There are people, again, that know more than me, that are closer to the situation, that are saying that. So you're left saying, okay, if he gets offered an NFL job, what's next? Well, here's the reason why it's frustrating from a Michigan standpoint. Yes, you did this last year, and it ended up being okay. But the reason why it's frustrating now is because, for the same reason I just said, you did it last year. And it's another momentum stopper. We shouldn't be talking about Jim Harbaugh taking NFL jobs right now. Rather, if I'm a Michigan fan, that's how I feel. What we should be talking about is we played for a college football playoff, we got to the dance, and lost a game that we all feel like we shouldn't have lost. How do we get back? How do we play for a national title next year? That's the conversation I want to have. I don't want to be talking about, is Jim Harbaugh going to be here or not? If I'm a Michigan fan, we're hoping we're eventually past that. And maybe you don't feel that way. Maybe you don't feel like, okay, we're past that, but you're hoping that this is one of the last times you have to do it. So Jim Harbaugh has come out and said, no one knows what the future holds, but I expect to enthusiastically be coaching at Michigan. The phrase, no one knows what the future holds, is very, very impactful there. That's one I would keep an eye on as this thing develops. That basically, to me, looks very much so like a little rectangle cut out in the room of this whole situation that I would say is a trap door. At any point in time, I can go back to this and say, I told you. We didn't know it was going to happen. I expected to be at Michigan. I still had the job. But, my heart's in the NFL is the way that it sounds to me. And when your heart is in something, it's very difficult to logic your way out of it. And who's to blame Jim Harbaugh if he does go to the NFL? He's done so much for Michigan. I don't want to make this a Jim Harbaugh segment, but he's done so much for Michigan that if he were to leave for the NFL, it would sting for the moment, but I think there would be some understanding in the long term. But in the current time right now, the frustration is it stops momentum, and it gives other programs that you compete against on a weekly basis negative recruiting ammunition. Meaning if I am an Ohio State coach, I can walk into that 4-star's living room and say, oh, you're picking between us and Michigan? Well, tell you what, Ryan Day is going to be here next year. Is Jim Harbaugh going to be here next year? Whether it's true or not, it's a tool, it's a conversation you can use against Michigan. Okay? So that's the frustrating piece. Momentum stopper, negative recruiting, and this is supposed to be the point where you take the next step. Like I said, the expectation is no longer can we beat Ohio State. Can we get to the college football playoff? You've done it twice in a row. Yes, emphatically, you can with Jim Harbaugh, the head coach at Michigan. You can. But now, we're not talking about taking that next step. We're talking about Jim Harbaugh. So that's the frustrating part. So with all that being said, with the roster and with the Jim Harbaugh situation, here's what I think 2023 looks like. This is my just honest feel on it. I think it is extremely reasonable to assume we will get Ohio State versus Michigan in Ann Arbor, both programs undefeated. Just the chef's kiss of college football. Nick Brake and I would very much hope and expect will be on hand for that one when that day comes. But the reality is, you can get past Ohio State and you can get to the college football playoff with Jim Harbaugh leading your program. If he's not there, if he's not the head coach, I don't know if you feel like you can't do it, but it becomes a question mark because you haven't done it yet. You haven't done it without Jim Harbaugh in a little bit. And that's the point that's frustrating. It sits a little bit funny with you. We've built all this up. We've built this organization. We've built these incredible offensive lines. We've built an incredible defense. We've done all these things to get to this point and be on the doorstep of a national championship with Jim Harbaugh. If he's not there, that's a key ingredient. Not having your head coach there. I don't think that's a stretch to say that would matter in that kind of a setting. But I would also say this. We said it earlier in the segment. We touched on it, but this is very much so the case. I know it's the second time around, and repetitions can be exhausting, but Michigan was in this exact same spot this time last year. Won the Big Ten, beat Ohio State, played for the college football playoff, and Jim Harbaugh danced with the NFL a little bit. And everyone coming into this year, myself included, was saying, how will they respond? How will that impact the locker room? How will that impact the psyche of this team? How did that impact the offseason? And all they did was run it back and do the exact same thing. So, far be it from me to say this is going to hurt them if Jim Harbaugh doesn't come back. But if he does, I think playing for a national title is without a doubt the expectation and is even more so emphasized as the goal. Like J.J. McCarthy said, we'll be back. I promise you that. And I really like their chances to make good on that promise with Jim Harbaugh at the helm. So that's where I think Michigan is right now. But very, very excited to watch that program as the weeks wear on and as we get closer and closer to spring ball, fall camp. It'll be a good time. We got you covered. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.